Hello everyone and welcome to another GTA discussion video where I'm going to be doing the second part of the Executives and Other Criminals DLC analysis. Obviously I released the first part a couple of weeks ago when we had sort of the majority of the cars all tested. I generally like to release these analysis videos which are a little bit longer. They're sort of more rambling and me explaining a little bit more about the cars, for example, and giving my thoughts on the other aspects of the DLC. But because this DLC was so big, you know, the Executives and Other Criminals DLC brought so many different cars and so many extra features, I've decided to split it up into two parts. The first part was about all of the cars that we originally tested back a couple of weeks ago, and now this is for sort of the remainder of the vehicles and then all of the extra stuff like the houses and the apartments and the yachts and all that kind of stuff that I'm going to be talking about in more detail, give my thoughts on, and obviously ask for your guys' thoughts at the end. So let's jump straight in with the Tampa. Now the Tampa actually came with the Executives and Other Criminals DLC. It actually was, you know, downloaded with that update, but it was on a sort of timed release. So they unlocked it later on with the festive update. I'm not sure I like the way that they do that. I'd rather they just gave us everything all at the start, really. I quite like the way that they did it, even though it was a pain in the ass for me when it came to testing them, but I quite like the way that they did it with the heists update, where you actually had to go through the heists to unlock the vehicles. I mean, it took me ages. I mean, it took me a while to get the testing done because I had to do all of the heists first, but I quite like when they sort of lock it off that way. But when it's just more of a timed thing, like the Tampa was, and they just basically waited until the festive surprise to release the Tampa, yeah, I'd rather they just sort of gave us it straight away. But that's a different conversation entirely. Now, the Tampa itself, I just wish it had a little bit more top speed. I really do, because it would be one hell of a muscle car. I mean, already it's almost there or thereabouts. It's kind of, when you look at the game code, it's very, very similar to a Stallion and a sort of Sabre Turbo in terms of performance, and obviously we saw that on the track as well. But it's kind of, when you compare it to a Dukes, every single aspect of the Tampa is basically a little bit worse than the Dukes. So it's kind of like a poor excuse for a Dukes, and that's why it isn't quite on the pace of the top vehicles. And as we know, you know, the Dukes is up there with the Dominator and the, you know, the Coquette Blackfin and the Blade as one of the top muscle cars. But this is just a little bit worse in pretty much every single aspect, and that's what makes it about 2 seconds off the pace. And really, it's its top speed that hurts it. If its top speed was even in Blade territory, it would be a very, very good option. But for it to be so low at 104 miles per hour, I think it was, it's just absolutely incredible that a sort of a car that feels like it's well balanced everywhere else and it's quite good around the corners is so slow in terms of top speed, and that's what really lets it down. So it's a bit of a shame, but ultimately the Tampa is a very, very nice looking car, and some of the sort of modifications that I've seen people put on them and the colour schemes and stuff like that have been absolutely incredible, and it is a very, very nice car to sort of look at. Just a shame that it isn't quite on the pace of the top muscle cars, but you know, it's there or thereabouts. It's certainly a lot better than the Nightshade anyway. So the turreted limo, now obviously that came with the Executives and Other Criminals, but I didn't cover it in that original analysis video because it was just too much to cover all in one video. The turreted limo, it's a nice sort of addition. You know, it kind of fits in with those heist vehicles that we had with the Insurgent and, you know, the Pegasus variants of those, and it's good to have something like that. Obviously it fits in with the whole VIPs, executives, organisation style of gameplay, that you've got a big turreted armoured limo that can help protect your VIP. Again, I know I mentioned this in sort of the testing video, but it would have been nice to have the sort of non-turreted standard version of the limo that's actually based off the Stretch E from GTA 4. It would have been nice to have that as well, you know, and maybe fit 6 people in. The problem I have mainly with the turreted limo is that it's still only a 4-person vehicle. You know, it's a huge vehicle, it's a limousine, and it can still only fit 4 people in it. Obviously 3 passengers and 1 person on the turret, or you can have all 4 people sat down, but there's no sort of benefit in that respect over and above, you know, just a normal car that you can fit 4 people in. And since we had something like the Shafters, where you can get 4 people in and go as quick as you possibly can in a 4-person car, yeah, it's just a bit of a shame that we don't have sort of the regular version of the limo where you can fit a few extra people in, because you can with the regular stretch. You know, the regular stretch has six seats. So yeah, not a lot to say about the turreted limo. It's a fun little addition. Now the new helicopter, the SuperVolito and the SuperVolito Carbon, but ultimately they are exactly the same. It's not too bad, you know. It's an okay helicopter. In terms of pace and performance, as we saw from the testing video, it's not quite on the level of the Swift. It's got some really weird way that it lands, and sometimes it can be very difficult to land it properly. But it's a nice looking helicopter, I would say. It's one of the better looking helicopters in the game. And again, something new, you know, something a little bit different. It's been a while since we had a new helicopter, I think. I think it was the Heist DLC, in fact, that we had a new helicopter. So it's good to see it, and again, it fits in with the whole idea of yachts and, you know, executive style things that the rich people may want. So yeah, again, not a lot to say about it, but obviously it's just a leftover from that I couldn't really fit in the previous discussion video, part 1. So yeah, just before I go on, I will leave links, like timestamp links in the description. So if you've got to this point in the video and you're thinking, okay, I don't want to last however long it's going to be, it'll probably be another 20 minutes I would imagine, but I'm never going to last that long. There are timestamp links in the description, so if you come back to the video later on, you will be able to click to a certain section that interests you the most. So now, 5 garages. We got an extra garage with this DLC, and that is absolutely fantastic, because it wasn't too long ago that we got a brand new garage beforehand. So we now have 5 garages to choose from, and that's great for myself, and I would say a lot of people in the racing community as well. A lot of people want to race different cars, and I, for one, you know, you've got all of the top cars, especially in the sports class. There's a lot of cars just below that are interesting to drive. They're not necessarily on the top pace, but you want to use them in a race just to have a bit of fun and, you know, learn the cars a little bit more and a few different experiences and that kind of thing. And that's really what I'm going to use my sort of extra garages for. I've already bought a 9F. You know, a 9F is one that I've wanted for quite a long time to have and try out in a race. So yeah, it's good that we have this option now, and I've never been able to understand why Rockstar haven't been more open with the amount of garages that you can have, because ultimately the more garages people have, the more cars they own or could own, and ultimately the more money that people will spend on shark cards filling those garages. So it always seemed logical to me to give us as many garages as possible. Maybe old gen was a reason that we didn't sort of get them as much as we could have done, but now that sort of old gen has been, let's say, discontinued by Rockstar in terms of new updates, we do have more garages, and it's nice to see that we're sort of getting them on a reasonably regular basis, and we're up to 5 now, so you can start 50 different vehicles. It's absolutely fantastic. On that point, you know, I seem to keep saying it every single time that we have one of these DLCs. Since old gen was left behind, I would say, we've seen much better and more involved DLCs for GTA 5. You know, they've been absolutely incredible, some of the ones that we've seen. Completely different to what we'd experienced before on old gen. And I think focusing, as much as, you know, people who are still on old gen don't like me to say it, you know, leaving it behind and focusing on current gen really has enabled Rockstar to push the boat out with these DLCs and really give us something a little bit different and a little bit special that we wouldn't have been able to see and wouldn't have been possible on old gen. So from that respect, I can understand why they decided to sort of leave old gen behind, and from my perspective as someone on current gen, I'm glad that they did, because if they hadn't, we wouldn't have got all of these extra DLC features that we've had so far. So coming on to those DLC features, I guess the first main one to talk about is yachts. I mean, yachts have been something that the GTA 5 community has wanted for such a long time. I mean, there's something that everybody seemed to get really excited about when they were initially announced. Now, obviously, people expected them to be expensive, and they were. I think they were a little bit less expensive than what people may have thought. I think people were generally thinking around sort of 15 to 20 million, and I certainly wouldn't have been surprised if that's how much they cost. But given the amount of features that you have on them, I think 15 to 20 million certainly would have been a little bit too much. There would have had to have certainly have been a lot more to the yachts if you were paying that amount. But in general, you always see these same old things in terms of the suggestions that you see on forums for GTA and comments on videos and all that kind of stuff. The casino is always one of those that is sort of really pushed quite a lot. New maps and expansions to maps, and yachts was always one of those as well. People seem to love the idea of having a yacht to yourself and being able to go to it and have a party on it and do whatever you want. And I have to say, I got really excited about them as well. And having got them and experienced them and, got my own, which I'll probably be showing on the screen right now, they're fantastic. They really are. They're such a great addition to the game. Now, in terms of functionality, in terms of what you can actually do with them, there's not a lot there. If you're completely looking at this from a cold, logical, well, there's not really a lot you can do on it kind of approach, then yeah, it's not really going to be worth the money to buy it. But some of the best experiences I've had on GTA so far have already come on a yacht. They've already happened, and by being on a yacht, it's just the experience of sharing that with people who your friends, going to a yacht, going in the hot tub, going inside and actually, just hanging around inside. It's just those little experiences that make the game what it is, in my personal opinion. And for us to be able to do that on a yacht is fantastic. And I've always liked boats in GTA, and I've made previous videos about it before, sort of GTA Live videos, where it's been focused on just going around and chilling in boats, and it's a really enjoyable experience. So it's really nice to have something now where boats are playing a much larger role. Obviously you get your helicopter on the yacht as well, and most people generally fly places, but I quite like that aspect of taking a boat somewhere and needing to get onto a boat to go to your yacht. Just little things like that, making boats useful again, if you like. So yeah, the customization on the yachts is very good as well. I would imagine, or maybe at least hope, that we see more customization come to these yachts. This is hopefully just the first stage of it, and you can sort of change a lot more different things, maybe have a different colours of the lights and different colour combinations of the yacht itself, maybe add some extra features and take some features away. Basically sort of tailor the yacht to what you want, more so than what you can do now, because they are all very similar at the moment. Are they worth the money? It depends. It all depends on what you're actually going to get out of it. If it's somewhere that you're going to spend a lot of time with friends just chilling out and doing, yacht related activities, if you like, then yes, they're definitely worth the money, because they're just something completely special, and there's nothing like them anywhere else in the game. But if you're looking at it from a functional perspective, no, they're definitely not worth the money, because you can't really do anything with them. You can go around the map, but they're more like an apartment, and apartments are places where you just go and hang out. You don't really spend all that much time in them under normal circumstances. You've got a garage, but that may be just used for holding your cars so you can get them, and most of the time you call your mechanic anyway. So yeah, yachts are very similar to apartments in that respect, that they are sort of a more free roam oriented thing, where it's not really serving a functional purpose. But that's what makes GTA what it is, and what makes GTA such an appealing aspect, because there are those things that you can get involved in and just go on the game and chill out, rather than having to sort of take it so seriously all the time. Now, coming on to the new apartments and houses in particular, I'll start with the apartments first. The views that you get from the 3 new apartments are absolutely incredible. I decided to go for the one that overlooked Vinewood Hills, because most of my other apartments and my house as well actually overlook the city, so I wanted something a little bit different. I'm just a little bit disappointed that they're only in Eclipse Towers. Location is, for me, an important part of where you're going to choose an apartment, where you're going to choose your house, or where the place that you're going to sort of spawn in, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a shame that the Eclipse is the only place that gets these new apartments, and I think a lot of focus is on Eclipse Towers, probably because it is obviously the highest, it's the biggest, but I would have liked to have seen these new apartments in some other areas, and maybe some newer areas, new apartment buildings that we don't already have. Everything is currently always on sort of Richards Majestic or Tinsel Towers, or whatever we already have and we have had since the start of the game. So it would have been nice to see that, but it's no major deal, and the views that you get from them are great. The interiors, you can have different interiors for them. That's really good. It's good to see that we're pushing the boat out with that sort of thing. Again, same with the yachts. It would be nice to maybe have a little bit more customization in terms of sort of finer details, instead of just having being able to choose 8 different options of how you want the interior of your apartment. Being able to sort of tweak individual aspects and take different couches and chairs and tweaking little things like that, rather than just having a sort of blanket change to everything. But maybe that will come in the future, you never know. And I'm sort of, after this update, I'm going to stop trying to sort of guess what Rockstar are going to do in the future, because they've kind of blown my mind with what they've already implemented with current gen so far. So there's so many possibilities of what they could do in the future. But yeah, it's just a shame that there's only 3 of them and they're all in the same area. But ultimately, one of those new apartments, I bought it because I quite like it, and it might be a nice place to spend some time, but it isn't my main place to sort of spawn in, or the main place that I sort of consider my primary apartment, which has all of my regular cars in that I'm going to use more often. That place is actually now my new house. So the stilt houses have came in for a little bit of critique, I would say, and people sort of having a few issues with them about the fact that they sort of, I know mansions was a word that was sort of thrown around a lot, and I even did it myself. It was not really, they're not really mansions, let's say, they're just houses, but there's something completely different, and that is what I love about these houses so much. Again, the location, I chose my particular house because of the interior. There's only 2 different interiors, but I was very particular about the interior that I wanted, the location that I wanted, the view that I had from the window, and the general look of the house, and also there's a little balcony on there as well. There are all sorts of little aspects to the house that I chose that make it my house and something completely different. And all of the houses that you can buy are completely different, not necessarily on the inside, but certainly on the outside. And that's what makes them a little bit special in my eyes compared to apartments where they're just all in one huge tower. It's just one big apartment block, and it's always the same. It doesn't matter which one you choose. The only thing that changes is really the view that you get out of the windows. So yeah, the house that I chose, I love it. I love just having something that isn't an apartment, having a house that is mine. And I can understand the criticism of the houses. They are reasonably expensive, and they aren't that special. They don't offer you any extra garage space or anything like that. And I think there's 10 of them, 10 different options to choose from. It would have been nice to have sort of all of the houses available in that area of Vinewood Hills, but for me, I love the idea of houses in general. There's something completely different to apartments. I really like the one that I have, and that's my primary place to sort of spawn in when it's not my yacht, and where I have all my primary vehicles. And as I say, it's just something completely different and something fresh. So the next thing definitely should be mansions. That's definitely true. We definitely want mansions next. 20-car garages, big huge mansions, or maybe some of the sort of bigger houses and apartments in Palito Bay. I would love one of those stilt houses in Palito Bay. I really would. Definitely Los Santos itself gets a lot of attention with apartments and houses and stuff like that. Palito Bay and sort of the outskirts, Blaine County in general, doesn't get quite as much attention, and it's really a shame that there isn't even a 10-car garage up there in Palito Bay, because it is a nice place to be. So next up we've got VIPs. The VIP play is very interesting, the organizations aspect of it. I haven't really delved that much into it sort of in a free mode aspect. I've had a little bit of experience with it, but in terms of sort of the free mode events and stuff like that, I don't really do as often because I'm not spending as much time in free mode, and if I am in free mode, I'm just sort of chilling out with people rather than doing the events that are sort of on there or the VIP stuff. But you know, anything that promotes a collection of a team or bringing people together, even if it's sort of these small 4-man VIP aspects, that is good in my eyes because it allows sort of small groups of friends to get together and then maybe have something extra to do in free mode. Free mode is sort of what you make of it. If you've got a lot of people willing to do a certain specific thing, then it can be one of the best experiences on the game. But if you're in a small group of people and you're just roaming around free mode where other people are doing all their own sort of thing, I can understand how it would get somewhat boring and not a lot to really do with it. So having this extra aspect of VIPs and organizations and taking on other organizations within free mode, and this all happens whilst there's other people doing their own stuff in free mode, like time trials and the free mode events. I love that idea of free mode becoming more alive with things to do. So yeah, anything in that respect, even if I'm not necessarily going to be using it as much as other people, I can certainly get behind them implementing. And again, that's showing what is possible since they moved to sort of focusing only on current gen. Now also a few things to clear up. They did bring back the mid-drive speed boost. I made a video about that. That was the first video I made after the update dropped. That is great. They actually mentioned in the sort of blurb on the patch notes that was brought back with feedback from the racing community. They actually mentioned that in text, so that was a nice nod, to what we do. Hopefully that was, from us actually talking about it and spreading the word about it and that sort of stuff. But yeah, let's see if we can build on that. I've already mentioned this in previous videos that I'm going to be trying to get the classes sorted out in terms of some of the sort of more game-breaking vehicles for racing. So let's see if we can build on that, and maybe they'll hopefully listen to us this time. Also, something that I noticed on the patch notes is that they added a new option to quick jobs. Now it's basically a filter quick job content option where you can choose to filter by sort of Rockstar created jobs or user created jobs or sort of anything that's available, which is sort of the standard. And this is something that I've mentioned and wanted to see implemented for a while, because I think a lot of people have felt the same, that you don't know what you're going to get. If you're only doing random races or random jobs, you never know what you're going to get, and you could want a Rockstar style race that's just a normal race and end up with some user created jumps race or really technical tight race. You just don't know what you're going to let yourself in for when you choose for a quick job. So better sort of filtering systems for that when people are joining these quick jobs is fantastic, and it's good to see that Rockstar finally sort of coming around to implementing this sort of thing. There's so many things and suggestions that we could still provide to Rockstar for this sort of stuff and to make the game experience a lot better, but it's nice to see that some improvements are being made in that area. So that's about it for this video. I think I've covered everything. I hope I haven't forgotten anything, but yeah, that is sort of part 2 of the discussion video, covering pretty much the rest of everything that I didn't cover in the first part of the analysis. So obviously, again, if you haven't seen that, you're welcome to click the link in the description and go watch it, because I go into more detail about all of the cars in particular and the class systems and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been a great DLC. The Executives and Other Criminals update has been one of the best. I think the best update has to go to sort of the content creator, because that has brought so many good times and so many different things. You can't really look beyond that, but this has certainly been up there with maybe Heists as one of the best updates that we've seen in terms of functionality and the things that you can have. So yeah, more of the same please, Rockstar, and I'm more than happy to make 2 nearly half-hour-long analysis videos if it means that the stuff, the DLCs and updates that we're going to get are going to be that much more expansive and actually require 2 videos. So yeah, I'll end it there, guys. Let me know all your thoughts about these features down below and all of the new stuff that we saw from the Executives and Other Criminals DLC. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.